just being a female trainer was a whole nother issue.
You're right.
Men, right? With
male
the men.
bodybuilder.
Oh
You're
my gosh.
right.
With the men, it was just like,
Yep.
oh my. And then when they would see me eating grapes or something, you know, I had to go off in another room at the gyms and eat in peace, because these were not people who were coming at me who were curious. They were coming at me with, it was nasty stuff that was being slung my way. But I wouldn't back down because I knew what was right for me.
Well, Angela Fischetti, it is great to have you here today. I'm here with V-Lynn Hawkins, the co-host of the show. How are you, V-Lynn?
I am excellent. Thank you, Kathleen. So thrilled to be here with Angela.
You know, me too. And I'm showing my new do here, and it'll last for a little while. It's kind of like my senior age crisis or something like that. My hair changes color all the time, so I'm kind of excited about it. But and I'm getting those Dalmatians. So are they Dalmatians? Is that what she has? What's her name?
Gorilla DeVille.
Okay, not to be confused with gorilla. So, but Angela, it is so great to have you here. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. It's just fantastic to be here with the both of you. Can you both hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Just wanted to make sure. Wonderful. This is such an honor for me, but it's a blast as well. And I'm doing extremely well. I'm very happy. I changed my space. Where I used to live, I couldn't film anymore. It was so loud there in South Beach. And there was a motorcycle stand, like a docking area that parked right outside my line of apartments. That meant I was filming 3, 4 in the morning. I couldn't get any quiet. And I said, wow, that's it. So I'm in what I call Nowheresville, nothingness of Lauderdale Lakes, and it's fabulous. And I get to actually film it, 1 PM without a problem. So it was the best thing I could have done.
Well, speaking of filming, let's take a step back, because there are people who know who you are. I mean, you're all over social media. You've done a great job with that. And then there are people who have no clue who you are. So let's start with your vegan journey, because one of the things that we really encourage people to look at is the vegan lifestyle and a plant-based diet. So when did you become vegan, and why did you become vegan?
Well, I'm going to go back to slightly before that. In 1987, I read Diet for a New America by John Robbins. And then I went vegetarian. And I was there for about 3 years. And then in 1990, went vegan. And I have to say that I don't know how long I stayed there, but I went raw vegan in the early 90s for 5 years. Then went back to vegetarian, and then went raw vegan again for like another 5. So the reason why I'm saying it to you like this is because my journey was not linear. And I think that's true of many of us. It's not a linear journey for some of us, especially if there were, and who doesn't have them, emotional or traumatic events in one's life, right? So these were the times that I would journey dipping back to vegetarian. And what was it? I'm American Italian background. Hello, is cheese, the pleasure trap food cheese. But ultimately what will happen is if one rides this out, right? For at least what happened with me is it just got to the point where, from a neuroadaptation perspective, just of the tongue and the taste buds, that other stuff was just not fulfilling anymore. And it kind of tastes gross after a while because it's highly processed foods. But I also had enormous amount of health challenges I got presented with. And I found that when I went whole food plant-based with 80 raw, 20% cooked, this was the sweet spot for me, the real sweet spot. And to this day, that's where I'm at. So it began because of a cat. And after I read that book, Diet for a New America, I walked out of my room and took one look at my cat. Her name was Honey Bunny. And I said, no way. And that's when the conscious eating of animals, I I didn't quite process about dairy at that point. And that's why it took me about 3 years after that to wise up to that.
Well, you got it pretty quickly, really, because you look back to 1990 is when you started. So we're going back 34 years, and that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of a baby vegan. I'm coming up on 6 years, and 6 years, and so it takes what it takes. But I
That's
love what
right.
you're doing to raise awareness. So
Thank
I
you.
know V-Lynn always has some amazing questions around business and around the business of business in the vegan space. So V-Lynn,
Beautiful.
I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for that. I'm so excited to hear more about your journey, Angela. I think that is fantastic.
Thank you.
And you are the example of most people. We have this journey that can either be thought of as a roller coaster ride or just an evolution
Right.
to fully understanding and embracing this whole lifestyle, which is life. And it brings me to something I heard when I was growing up. We have choice, and one choice that has been given to us is the choice of life or death.
Right.
And then the call to action was choose life.
Right.
And I think that we all have come to that, even though it's taken us whatever our journey was supposed to be. Because, no journey just happens. It happens the way that it is supposed to happen in order for it to make an impact on us. And honestly, to help us to come into our purpose and passion and mission in life. And saying that, you've transitioned from something that you were doing that was, and I'll call it job worthy, right? Into now you are this vegan entrepreneur and, doing some amazing things, connecting with some amazing people and helping not just those who find you individually, but because of your connections, you are helping people that are connected with others, doctors and chiropractors and those in the health industry that can't necessarily explain what it is that you explain as far as the value of physical activity. But tell us a little bit about that work journey, that journey from that job to, how did you get into this fitness world and then evolve into this, amazing vegan fitness instructor that has just blossomed in the last couple of years?
Thank you. I do appreciate that very much. It's beautiful. Well, the thing about me was that I was a performer when I was younger. And I was a singer and I was an actress. I did Shakespearean shows and traveled the country. But who traveled with me was a cassette tape. And that was Jane Fonda. And believe it or not, it was Jane Fonda who set me on that path, because as much passion as I had for performing, I discovered I had it for fitness. And it was by way of Jane. Now, I don't teach I never taught aerobics. It's not me, but it was I was so attracted to the work and wow, I could pop this little cassette in this, old-fashioned cassette recorder and be in any hotel room around the country. It was really, let me tell you this way, it was a motel room, all right? And just play my Jane tape. This was in the 80s. And I was working out in the hotel room while getting ready to go on stage to play Kate in The Taming of the Shrew, And I got to tell this to Jane Fonda. I met her about 15 years ago when she was touring for her autobiography. And I met her in Miami-Dade College. And she was there speaking. And I said, I got to thank her. And I did, because that's where it began. Now, where it branched off from there was simply a natural extension of my beautiful relationship with my grandparents, my mother's parents. I was so close to them. My grandmother's family, everybody was here from Italy. Her elder brothers and sisters, there were like 11 of them, and they would all congregate. And I was the one cousin who was like, all right, I can hang out with you all and I love my cousins, or I can go to them because they're over there laughing their butts off, speaking in Italian. And there was so much life coming out of them that's where I began my journey with the elderly population, the older population, the more seasoned population, whatever words that somebody might resonate with. But I was immediate with that population, so that when I finally was in a gym setting, and it was up in Brooklyn Heights, when I had gotten certified as a trainer, and I was really a newbie. And they approached me and said, we watch you and we think you would be great with for our senior fitness program here. And I said, you'd be right. And they put me into a 1-year program, which was at the time, the American Senior Fitness Association, a phenomenal program where you learned about medications and exercise and contraindications, all these different concerns and issues. And so from almost day one of my career in 1990, I've been with what is now my population, right? Because I'm about to be 66 years young, for my work. It was always in this direction.
Let me ask you a question about that. And first of all, I'm so glad you mentioned Jane Fonda, because I remember when she was blacklisted from Hollywood, and it was all around the Vietnam War. And I remember thinking, I think she's right. I really think she's right. But, with it was just a very, very controversial thing going on. And she finally got her just desserts, if you will. When, like now, she's very highly revered. She's very highly respected. And there are people saying she was right. And she was right about health. She was right about a lot of things. And what's really exciting is to see a woman her age as vibrant as she is.
Right.
And I'm curious, when you say seasoned, what does that actually mean? What is the age group? Elderly? What, we're going to be 70 pretty soon, both Lynn and myself. You're 66. So where does that really fall?
It falls at age 50.
Okay.
There's a lot of changes that occur. And it used to be at age 40, right? Well, that's not that's changed over the course of time. And it's really, for me, from my observations, is age 50 on up. And when I say on up, I really mean way up there. So there are people in their 90s and their low 100s.
Wonderful.
Definitely.
Well, it's kind of exciting because Lynn and I, we've actually had this conversation. I did a short video about the number of jelly beans you have left in life. And when you're born, you're given a bunch of jelly beans and it's a jar full. And those are the days of your life. And you reach a point where the days before are much greater than the days ahead. And it really has you look at your mortality. So let's talk a little bit about with the whole idea of eating a plant-based diet and why it's so healthy, especially for entrepreneurs. Well, it's healthy for everybody, but as an entrepreneur, you have so many stresses, you have so many pressures, you have to be clear-headed. Why a plant-based diet for an entrepreneur? What would be the benefit?
Well, I think number one, it's a clear thinking, as you mentioned, but also it's sustenance, because the hours for an entrepreneur, they're long. I mean, they're long, you can, if especially if somebody doesn't have a team, so to speak, working with them, it could be a lot of hours that you're putting into this. And how do you sustain that? And I find, I have many people like yourselves, because your energy levels burst out of you, right? This is a direct reflection of what we intake in our bodies, because we're not taking in dead foods, meaning foods that don't have a vibrancy to them. And our food has a natural vibrancy built in. And this goes along with maintaining a high energy level. And also it goes along with, obviously, with the workout process. I don't know, but if you're an entrepreneur, I think you better do some exercise. And you got to figure out what is appropriate for you to sustain your health. And maybe for some people, they need to go more off in the wellness area. Maybe it's yoga, whatever it is. You need to be physically active for self-preservation. And the foods that we eat need not impede that. Because if I'm going to eat, I don't know, chips and crap and whatever it is, I'm going to slow down. You
Right.
know, I'm going to slow down, be sluggish, not have the energy, not have the clear mind in order to do what must be done in order to carry on one's message. Does that
Uh,
make sense?
it makes perfect sense. And I want to
Okay.
remind people that you're watching the Veganpreneur podcast show or listening. And I encourage you that wherever you're listening or watching, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review, and also click the like button, because that helps us to get the message out to more people. And Angela, how can people find you? What's the best location that they can go to?
Thank you for asking, Kathleen. I appreciate that. Then go to my website, which is boomerandbeyondwellness.com.
Excellent. Boomerandbeyondwellness.com. And if you're watching the show, you can see it streaming across the bottom, and it will be in the show notes. So, Vlyn, what's your next question that you have for Angela?
Well, I want to stay on this importance of exercise, because it's so funny. I am like you. Jane Fonda dropped in front of me, and I was Janefondaized. And for me, it meant getting certified and instructing. I had a 20-year career as a fitness instructor, and at the same time, I did amateur bodybuilding, and I taught everything from elderly senior aerobics to kids aerobics.
Wow.
And what was really cool was to see these kids looking at having a chance to exercise like they thought their parents were doing. It was so cute. And doing it with Mickey Mouse, and then going to the other extreme. And I remember working out with a group one time. We had several in the class that really needed to be in chairs. And I worked with them for maybe 6 months. And by the end of that 6 months, I was able to bring enough of my own energy and the music into it, where several of those elderly that were in chairs were no longer in chairs working out.
It's beautiful.
They had gained strength. And, you know, I feel the same way about us in this whole food, plant-based, SOS-free space. Where when we bring our energy and our knowledge and expertise around this message, that we inspire others and we give others an opportunity to basically get up from the chair and be better physically, mentally, emotionally. And I wanted to find out from you, dealing with this population, give us a couple of success stories that you've had in working with some of the clients that you've been with, or the groups that you've done work with.
Well, success to me is measured in different ways. So the concept of being able to get up and out of a chair is fantastic, but not everybody can achieve that. Only because some of the people that I work with and have worked with are literally almost at the tail end of their lives. So oftentimes what the goal is when it comes to this kind of severity is just to instill a sense of value and worth, because I think the way that I'm going to go there in this conversation. I think the way that the American Medical Association is set up is to victimize everybody. And it kind of makes me just kind of, it makes me shudder. And so, because I see what happens to people, because what happens is the words "I can't" are are in the vocabulary, and they're like coming out of the mouth before the end of anything you're saying. I can't. So my whole thing is to try to teach in a way that is about I can. So I'm going to show you different ways of doing an exercise. So if you are somebody who's advanced, well, I'm going to hit you with triple sets and weights and all that stuff. But maybe just moving, and that you have to still be in your chair is important to understand, because we need to look at the chair not as an enemy. We need to look at the chair as a tool for health. And if your situation is such that You can't walk. You're in the chair. I'm going to go after that upper body, man. I'm going to go after the upper body, and I might start you with no weights. So, and oftentimes just to get somebody to move with a basic bicep curl is a big deal. You know that, V-Lynn, for some people. And that's why if you put a 2-pound weight in somebody's hand and you see their face light up, I'm lifting weights. Whoa, mama, my hair goes up just telling you this stuff, because that's the level at the work that I work with people. I got people who have serious stuff going on, but I will not give into the I can't. I will not. And that's oftentimes why people come to me, is because I'm not there to limit them. I'm not going to look at you from the perspective of what you can't do. I'm going to take all that from your doctors and I'm going to find out what's contraindicated for you. And then I'm going to go, now, baby, let's go. We got a whole world to pull from of what we can do. So the success stories are not the usual. The success stories are Mickey, who passed away from breast cancer. And 3 days before she passed, she was in the hospital room at Mount Sinai, not Mount Sinai, the big one in Manhattan. It blew out of my mind, the cancer center in Manhattan. And she was in that hospital for months. And she refused to see the physical therapists there. And her brother was on the board of directors for the hospital. And so what had happened is she demanded they let me in. They weren't letting me in. And because when she saw me, she saw some hope. And she saw somebody who wasn't going to take her. I can't do it. I'm like, listen, Nikki, I don't want to hear that crap. I traveled from Long Island to come here, man. You're going to do something in that bed. I don't care what we do, but you're going to move. And she would do it. And she would literally be like this, eyes closed, on her back in the bed, lifting the arm, and just stay like that. I'm like, okay, Mickey, let's lower it down. And I'd be in the bed with her. And she'd lower it down. And and if I would get up to move, where you going? All of a sudden she'd snap out of it. Where you going? I'm not going anywhere. I'm just standing. Can I stand? That kind of thing. But that's this type of stuff that one can experience in this profession. And so that's why my gauge here on what's successful is not the norm. It's not, I should say it's not common, but it is normal. And it is normal to see people in stage 4 Parkinson's who are drooling in a downer, okay, still say to me, I want to do this. Don't go. I want to work out. All right, doc. And I had a medical doctor with it, and we brought him to his bed. I got into the bed, and we're working with him in the bed. I'm working with him. And the next thing I hear is a laughing a laughing wife, because the housekeeper apparently went into her and said, she's in bed with him. And it was like, okay. And so the wife is roaring laughing, and I hear her go, she does it all the time. But this is the stuff that happens, right? So these people are given a diagnosis or a prognosis a very little time. And what I find is they outlast these prognoses because there is more determination there than is being allowed to come forward. And that's what I'm about with this work.
I love that, because there's so often that people are blinded to the I'm possible versus the impossible. They don't see it. They don't have it. They don't have someone in their lives that's going to pour that into them. And it's pretty debilitating when you think about that. And I love how you brought about the fact that success happens individually. For, you cannot measure your success by somebody else's success. And it's so important that even translating this exercise to the plant-based journey, you can't measure somebody else's journey by your journey and your evolution in this space. And I think it's so important for people to understand that you have to walk your own path.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can't feel bad about where you are either, because bottom line is you didn't know a lot of what was behind you that helped you to get here. Like if I had known what was going to lead to Parkinson's, say if I had it, would I have done something differently? Probably so. But I didn't know. And now I'm here, 90 years old, and I'm suffering with this. But I have this glimmer of hope because of the food that I'm eating, because of the exercise that I'm getting. And the gift is you get more time with your loved ones, being able to see the sunshine and have people like you in their lives to help inspire this action. And so, Angela, what would you tell the person who is in this space of, I'm fighting to hold on with hope? I'm hearing all of this. I live in a household where nobody eats plant-based but me, and it's a challenge. No one exercises, and I want to, but when I do, I hear all of this on the outside saying, you're crazy. You just, why are you doing that? You look stupid. I mean, all of these things that are external. What would you tell somebody who really is trying to bring it up from inside to sustain themselves?
I have to dig into when I was presented with these kind of challenges, because I have to tell you, back in 87 and 90, being a female trainer, number one, just being a female trainer was a whole nother issue.
You're right.
Men, right? With
male
the men.
bodybuilder.
Oh
You're
my
right.
With the men, it was just like,
Yep.
oh my. And then when they would see me eating grapes or something, I had to go off in another room at the gyms and eat in peace, because these were not people who were coming at me who were curious. They were coming at me with, it was nasty stuff that was being slung my way, but I wouldn't back down because I knew what was right for me. Yeah. So I have to think about those times and experience those times and realize I never want that again. So one of the best things that ever happened was the whole a process of Zoom and FaceTime and everything, because before COVID, before the pandemic, I was involved in platforms, whole food, plant-based platforms, vegan, ethical vegan platforms online, where we would get together. And the thing has to do with community support. So I certainly didn't have it around me. I wasn't with my immediate friends. I had one who was very much into the same lifestyle, but I met years later. Okay. So it was finding community and support. And this is what I would stress to people. If you are really alone on this journey, you're really not, because you just got to do a little bit here and there and check this out, check out that site, check out this site. I love referring and spreading the word about other organizations, about other talents, particularly in the whole food, plant-based world and vegan world. A lot of people ask me to join their platforms. It's like, I wish I could do all of this, right? But I can't. But what I can do is introduce people to each other. A big lesson I learned from you all was collaboration. So you bring that concept of collaboration into what can you do to service someone, right? Having me on a podcast show is phenomenal for me. But what do I do for you? You understand? So I think it's very important to have that give back and say, well, guess what? I want to spread the word about their gifts to other people. Right. And so that's a big part of this too, is in the collaboration process. But getting back to the original question, it's really about encouraging people to find other communities. And if they're in a position where they don't really have access too much to this material, I'm giving them the material. You know I am, because people will automatically, when you have especially in my case, a new client who asks me about how I eat and stuff. Well, it's because it's just so second nature for me, and the lifestyle, all the literature I hand out to people, all the links that I send. If somebody asks me about, oh, do you know a really great, I don't know, endocrinologist or cardiologist? Well, I'm sending out the information about all the plant-based doctors, because that is my reality. And these are the people that I've learned from. And these are the people that I've experienced great strides in my own personal health. I mean, I have been down this journey partially myself. With I once was diagnosed with the osteoporosis of a 90-year-old. And I am what I call age-appropriate osteopenia. There's a big difference. One has an uppercase O for a reason, right? It's a pathology. The other is not. I was subclinical hypothyroid, no longer. I actually just 3 months ago got fantastic news about two masses in my body that were the size of grapefruits that have been there for 6 years, resting on my left ovary. They're out of here. They took 6.5 years. And I took a lot from a certain medical center here, another cancer center, I won't say their name, in the Florida area, that they were trying to get me to cut out my body parts. They wanted to take my whole uterus. They wanted at one point take the thyroid. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I'll hang in there for a little while. It's okay. I'm going to try this other approach with some other medical people. So I know the journey. I know what it's like. I had also another huge cyst, huge mass on the right ovary that was gone. I had endometrial hyperplasia, which is one of the indications of endometrial cancer. And it's just, uterine cancer. And so I have had my own fair share of stuff. And it's not easy to downgrade something like osteoporosis. Now, you might ask, how did I get that? Well, I got that because of the times when there was emotional stuff going on with me, and I was eating crap, vegan, vegetarian, junk food crap, and I wasn't working out. As soon as I got back into the strength training, whole food, plant-based, these things all cleared up.
You know, I am so glad you mentioned that, because, well, first of all, I love what you're doing, because when I was my mom's caretaker and she was in the hospital quite a bit, it was sad to see the number of people that were abandoned by their families, the elderly people. And so I would go visit them and just entertain them, do what I do, and just, spend time with people. I had no clue who they were. They probably weren't going to be around for any length of time, but I love what you're doing, because the world needs more of that. And, there's a point where, like you said, they're on very limited time. And so make their time the best it is, and don't let them come up with excuses. I was listening to Reverend Michael Beckwith this morning about, he said that you speak into your day what you want, whether you realize it or not. So if you say, I'm tired, then you're going to manifest that. No matter how tired you are right now, you're going to be more tired. So speak into it that I can, I feel great, whatever it may be. And so having you as their advocate and their cheerleader is so, so very important. I want to take a step back before many of these people are diagnosed with, whether it be Parkinson's, dementia, whatever it may be. There are plenty of studies out there, and it's been proven that many of the diseases that we've come to accept as normal are preventable. About 85% of our healthcare costs go to preventable diseases to take care of that. So taking a step back, what can people do to minimize the risk that they are putting themselves at by not having a whole food, plant-based diet? So what would be some simple steps that people could take?
Well, number one, I would tell somebody, if you can walk. Let's get in some movement. Whatever, because I like the word exercise, right? But some people just like freak out. So get in some movement, but some movement that is with intention to put some effort into it, not to stroll for the sake of strolling. Now, let me say this. For some people, getting out of that chair and strolling is a big deal. Okay. So it's really, once again, on an individual basis. I cannot compartmentalize everybody. I won't do that. But I'm just saying, whatever is physically doable, do that. Move. The other thing that blares out at me, and I guess it's because of my own background, is if you get rid of the dairy. Get rid of the dairy. So to me, it's about move and get rid of the dairy. And I think right there, a lot can be achieved.
Perfect.
If somebody is like, I can't do that. I can't do the whole food, plant-based all the way and all that. Okay, but try those 2 steps.
You know, and I've heard some nutrition experts and doctors that when they said if a person were given a choice between the animal or the dairy, start with the dairy, get rid of the dairy, and then move into the animal. But another part of that question is with the family members who have elderly parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents who are on the decline, and they basically treat them like throwaway people. What can you recommend to people to have more compassion, more love, even if it's not a family member? Because I know for me, there's something that calls me when I see an elderly person, for example, at the grocery store, and I will follow them around. They're thinking I'm stalking them, but I follow around to see if I can help them with anything. I've offered to walk them to their car. You know, there was a time I remember Karen and we were at a grocery store, this elderly woman who was a little disoriented. We asked her to show us to where she lived, which was kind of dangerous that she did. But the fact is that when we got to her house, we unpacked her groceries, we put them away. We made sure she was okay. And, you know, so what are some things that people can do to really show more compassion and love towards elderly people?
There was a song that Bette Midler sang called Hello in There. And if you really read the lyrics, it's really about encountering homeless elderly in the street. And it's like, look at me, look into my eyes and say the word hello. That's really what it's about, is placing value on another living being and acknowledging their presence. And then the other thing that I would say, and this honestly doesn't stem from a perspective as regarding to a human being, but to animals. I remember when my first cat, Honey Bunny, had to be euthanized. And I was just like, how do I make this decision? And she was with me 21 years. And I was just, how do I make this decision? And then one day I saw her fall out of the litter box because she no longer had control over the hind legs and all that. And she called out. She called out to me. She just looked at me straight in the face and called out. And I went, oh, the question to ask is, if I had my choice, would I want to live like that? Falling out of my litter box. So think twice before you ignore someone who may be a scary reminder of what you might become in your future. You have the knowledge in today's day and age. The information is out there that you can call that information and apply it. A lot of these people don't, and especially from older generations, they don't. They were really raised a certain specific way, and that is it. And I say this to you having to think about my own mother, because my mother has not exercised a day in her life, and her body, it's taken its toll. She literally stands like this. Okay, her spine. She's rheumatoid arthritis, but it began at 35, and the diet was, you know, Milano cookies and milk still to this day. So I have to stop and think about what she came from, right? World War II child, and the lack and all that they experienced, and then the hoarding that comes from that, right? And I have to remember that before I get all up in my own tussiness and go, you know, well, I know better. No, I don't. It was just a different time period.
Right.
You know, so people, we're not all that. Nobody's all that.
Mhm.
You know, look at somebody in the eye and say hello.
I love that. I love that.
Love that too.
Delynn, what is
Wow.
your final thoughts and questions for Angela?
You know, Angela, you just bring such a depth of personality and passion around who you are now and the importance of what it is that you do. Um, you know, I was thought to be an anomaly back in the day,
Mm,
teaching kids aerobics, much less aerobics for elderly
mm,
and seniors. And I know for you to have had that kind of a career has really set you apart from many others. Not to mention the fact that being in this industry, a lot of
mm.
what women do, women were not thought to be able to do at all. And so I totally appreciate what you've done and the value that you've brought to this work, as well as to the whole food plant-based communities that you serve. And I wanted to ask you one last question, and that
Mm.
is, I know that you belong to numerous communities, but someone looking for a community that may in fact find something close by that they can be a part of
Mm.
or online, is
Mhm.
there a particular community that you might recommend?
Well, I will tell you, the first thing I think is, I don't know if you want to think of it as a community, but what I do is I tell people, I send people to the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. That is really like my gut first, like
Mhm.
recommendation to people, because from there, they can learn about pod communities in their local area. And there are so many wonderful organizations that sponsor pod communities and that PCRM will also refer off to. Plus, what I like about PCRM is the many languages. They serve many languages, right? So here we have a whole free platform online, but they also have a network and a database to hook up people in local areas as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for
Wonderful.
that. And we'll
You're
make sure
welcome.
that that is also in the show notes because
Absolutely.
we are big fans of PCRM.
Mhm.
And I have to give them a plug too. They were one of the first organizations who really pushed for taking a look at and reversing the advertising that was being done around milk.
Mm.
Mhm.
Where we all grew up with milk does the body good. I mean, they bought billboards and had sides of buses with advertisements, ditch milk. Because what we know today is, and you mentioned it numerous times, give up the dairy, because milk is one of the things that starts and exacerbates
Yeah.
so many negative physical conditions. And so thank you for bringing them into the conversation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I just want to say I'm so thrilled that we had this opportunity to have a deeper conversation with you,
Mm.
to learn more about what you do, because oftentimes when we think of exercise, when we think of nutrition, we think of going to a gym, we think of lifting heavy weights, we think of running a few miles. I'm still feeling some pain in my legs from those few miles I ran, but the reality is what you're doing is so important. It's so guided, if you will. I feel
Mm.
like you're being led by another source to do your life's work and to touch the lives of people who would otherwise be left on their own and would not have that spark that you give them. So for that, I so appreciate what
Thank
you're
you.
doing, Angela. And I want to remind people that you're listening to the Veganpreneur Revolution podcast show. And again, please subscribe to this channel. Visit Angela's website, which is boomerandbeyondwellness.com. And in closing, Angela, what are your final thoughts?
Um, just know that you can do it. Anything that you set your mind on and that you aspire to, you can do it. You know, my new hero is Diana Nyad, and she's the gal who swam from Cuba to Florida. And so in fact, it was the Keys, and at the age of 64. And so she talks about find a way, right? And I was really this close to bankruptcy so recently, and I found a way. And Dr. Frank Sabatino said to me, you need to reinvent yourself. And when you said it happened over the last couple of years, Kathleen, you are correct. So I'm saying to other people, find a way. And if you are physically limited, there are many ways out there. It's just try to get past that self-limitation of I can't, because you can. It might be different than what you thought, but it's still an I can. Find a way.
I love it.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I encourage people also visit our website at veganvisibilityproductions.com. And this is Kathleen Gage with Velyn Hawkins. And Velyn, always, always, always a delight.
Always, Kathleen. Thank you, Angela. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for joining us today. For watching the replay, do please subscribe to our channels and leave us a comment. Leave us a review. We'd love your feedback. Thanks again. And we will see you on the next episode of the Veganpreneur Revolution podcast.
You've been listening to the Veganpreneur Revolution podcast show with Velyn Hawkins and Kathleen Gage. Be sure to leave a review, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to this channel. And visit our website at veganvisibilityproductions.com. That's veganvisibilityproductions.com. Have a great day and live healthy.